Hey there, welcome back to another review of the Patrick Swayze Marathon. And I believe when I post this, it will actually be Patrick Swayze's birthday, which wasn't done on purpose, but it made sense that the review, or one of the reviews, will be Red Dawn. Definitely one of Swayze's most famous films, and a really solid movie. This is the collector's edition, which is a 2-disc. Disc 1 is the widescreen version and a carnage counter. Disc 2 is a retrospective look at the film where you get interviews with Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen, Powers Boothe, Leah Thompson, C. Thomas Howell, John Milius, the director. You also get a couple other featurettes. But Red Dawn came out in 1984, and I believe, I could be wrong, I believe this was the first movie that got the PG-13. I believe that was the case. At least in the US under the PG-13 rating. And it really shows what 80s PG-13 is different compared to today, because I would not be surprised if this came out today, they would have rated it R. Because, I mean, when you watch the film, there's quite a bit of violence and some practical blood squibs. I mean, this film is bloodier than a lot of R-rated films nowadays. Now, the plot of the film, the Soviets have invaded along with the Cubans. A lot of the film takes place in Colorado, and a group of high school kids get together and they decide to defend their land against the Russians and the Cubans. Now, John Milius, the director of Conan the Barbarian, he did this film. He did a really nice job. It's an action-packed movie. The action scenes are well handled. Like I said, they're surprisingly violent at times for PG-13. But again, this is 80s PG-13, so maybe not too surprising. Has a really good score by Basil Polidoris, who is most famous for his score for RoboCop. But he did another great musical job here. Especially like the opening theme, the da, 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 da. Some other recognizable people are in the film. Frank McRae, who I remember as one of Sylvester Stallone's friends in prison in the film Lockup. He was also the captain in 48 Hours, Last Action Hero, National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1. He has a brief appearance here at the beginning as the teacher, who is the first person to get shot with a bit of blood squib coming out. The villains, you have William Smith, who was Conan's dad at the beginning of Conan the Barbarian. He was in Maniac Cop, and William Smith have been in quite a few films. Ron O'Neal, Superfly himself, as the Cuban bad guy, but he's not too bad. So there's a little bit, his character's not cliche, straightforward, evil villain. There's a bit more to him. Harry Dean Stanton as Charlie Sheen at Patrick Swayze's father. Ben Johnson, who is in Terror Train and other films. He's in this as a guy who opens up his house to our good guys. Powers Boothe, who he plays a down pilot who joins our characters for a little bit of time. And then the main cast itself, I mean, you got Patrick Swayze, who does a great job as Jed. You got Charlie Sheen, who plays his brother. The other kids, you have C. Thomas Howell, who plays a character named Robert, who there's a change throughout the film where he becomes much more harder edge. The hate for the villains burns in him and ultimately kind of leads to his demise. I thought that was an interesting thing they did. Jennifer Grey and Leah Thompson are granddaughters of Ben Johnson, who gives them to Patrick Swayze's group to join them in the fight. And, I mean, you have a great cast, like I said, solid action, wonderful musical score. And I gotta touch on the remake because it's an awful piece of shit. Remake a Red Dawn sucks ass. That's why it's called Red Yawn. It's boring as fuck. Many things that they got wrong in the remake that made this film work. Number one, piss poor action in that remake. Number two, piss poor cast in that remake, other than Chris Hemsworth and Jeffrey D. Morgan. Number three, they try to over stylize stuff and just the accuracies don't work because of that. And also, this film, when you watch it, there's actually certain like creepy vibes to it, like it should, considering the concept of World War III. What I mean by that is there's certain quiet moments, and that's what the remake forgot. There's quiet moments in this that make it effective. The opening, when it's just a regular day at the school in Colorado, and all of a sudden you just see paratroopers dropping on the front lawn. And just the stillness and silence of that scene make you kind of a little bit eerie, because you picture yourself in that situation. That's what this film does that the remake didn't. This one really does make you picture, like, what if you were in that situation and you're in school and these people just drop in the front lawn of your school and your teacher goes out, he just gets shot. The other scene that comes to mind is when they find one of the characters had gone into town, been caught, put a tracker, a bug in him, had told them where the group was, and they're not sure if they should kill him and this other Soviet guy or not. They kill the Soviet guy, but the guy was part of their team, who is a traitor. But you could tell that he didn't really want to do it. He was kind of forced into it, but still he did it. Swayze's unsure, but he decides not to. And C. Thomas Howell, since he's long gone, he just shoots without any emotion. But again, the stillness, the quietness, it's not over the top, it's not over dramatic, it's not horns blaring and horror movie music blaring. It's, again, it makes the scene seem a bit eerie. Maybe I'm the only person that thinks that way. But I mean, again, you have a great cast. Utilizing the PG-13 to as full as they could get. Likeable characters, likeable actors. Some little bits of humor, like early on when their vehicle needs water and Swayze tells the guy, "Now get up here and piss in the radiator." Of course, the whole thing where they call their team based on their mascot, Wolverines. It's like, Wolverines! That's definitely a memorable part. And pretty much the story takes place in a matter of... I'm trying to think. About maybe 5 or 6 months. Because I believe it starts in like October, like September. And then I know it goes at least till like January or February. Because they're in there's once in a while there's a month that pops up. Powers Boothe is a lot of fun. I wish he was in the film more, but just because I love Powers Boothe, may he rest in peace. Same with Mr. Swayze. Both great actors. And I just had a lot of fun with Powers Boothe. I was sad to see him go so early. I kind of wish he would have lived. I think it would have been nice if he was one of the few that lived, just to see more of him. But he does have a fun line where he's like, shoot straight for once, you Army pukes. But yeah, I mean, the action scenes, they shoot RPGs, bazookas, there's tanks in there, they deal with helicopters, all done practically, no CGI. It's another thing that the remake didn't understand. as well as the remake had a fucking scene in Subway. Might as well have been a giant Subway ad. If World War III is at your door, make sure to go to Subway and get a footlong. And make you defend your country anytime you eat a foot sub. Subway, making the resistance fresh. I don't know, just fucking fuck the remake. I reviewed that long ago. I'm not going to review it again because this is part of the Swayze marathon. And so it's an awful movie. I'm trying to think like what else I could say because the film speaks to itself. It does, get sad when characters, start to die out. Like Powers Booth's character, when they're in the snow, he gets killed. Jennifer Grey, she gets shot and she's left a grenade to use so they won't make her talk. The bad guys won't catch her, make her talk. C. Thomas Howell, he's lost it so much that he thinks he could stand up to a helicopter. But also I think he kind of knows that he's going to die. So he just yells Wolverines and shoots at a helicopter even though he has no chance. And growing up watching this film, I never really figured that Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen died at the end. Charlie Sheen, I could assume he would die, that he had died by the end of the film. But Patrick Swayze, I assumed he lived, but I know anytime when someone talks about the film and the ending, they go that, well, both of the brother characters died. I always assumed Swayze lived and he just went off to live in the mountains, but maybe that's up to the individual to think for themselves. And like I said, the Ron O'Neal character, like he's a bad guy, but you get the idea that back in the day he was in his homeland, he was on the opposite end. He was in the shoes of Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen. He was in their shoes. And I think there's even a point where he's like, yeah, now I become you, a policeman. He's talking to another bad guy. And he's like writing his resignation, and he's tired of this. He doesn't want to do this. And he has a chance to shoot Swayze and Charlie Sheen there, but he doesn't, lets them go. And that's for me, I thought it was interesting that the Ron O'Neal character, they didn't just make him a typical one-dimensional guy. They had at least a teeny bit of layers to that. Thought that was interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's well directed, has a nice vibe to it. The movie knows that it can't be just loud, brash, and even louder, and then loudest, which is sometimes what the remake felt like it was trying to do. The remake just tried to be busy with CGI, effects, the music, the crappy cast. Like the way they handled the Chris Hemsworth character at the end in that film was not satisfying at all. I thought it was handled better here. Even if Patrick Swayze's character, you do assume he died, it was handled in a much more dignified, better way than in the remake where he just randomly gets shot very quick and like. Plus, Red Dawn is one of those movies you didn't need a remake. I mean, yeah, people could look at this as a silly film, unrealistic that a bunch of high school kids can go up against the Russian and Cuban army. And it's like, well, how did these kids, maybe they can handle rifles, but, they're handling, 50 caliber, well, maybe it's not 50 caliber, they're handling, hardcore machine guns and bazookas. How can they handle that? How can they work those weapons? Fantasy. But even if you want to go that route, it still works on that front. And I know there have been other films other than the Red Dawn remake that tried to do this. I think there was one called like was it The War at Home? Not Tomorrow. I forget what the hell the title was. It was like a long title. I thought it was like Tomorrow was in the title or Yesterday. I can't remember. There's been other movies that tried to do this, but none have succeeded as well as Red Dawn, because the director John Milius is one of those gun-ho, fuck yeah, military guys, where he wants the action to be up front and center, but at the same time the cast makes it so that it's not too melodramatic, over the top. Like, the cast made it work as well as the score, and like, there's some good emotion. There's some good. You really do like these teenagers, and you really do feel for them, and I think there's a good balance of it. So it's not, for me, I don't feel it's as over the top as maybe some other people feel it is. And like I said, the cast made it work very well. Patrick Swayze does a great job in this. Definitely one of his best roles. Charlie Sheen, he does a good job. Sometimes it seems like he just doesn't have a lot to do. Even though he's the brother of the main character. Maybe if there were a few more standout scenes for Charlie Sheen to have on an action front or an acting front would have been nice. Because there are times where Charlie Sheen seems like he just disappears. Not literally, but he kind of just blends in, and other people like C. Thomas Howell and Leah Thompson are a little bit center stage. So maybe again, maybe a little bit more meat, a little bit more stuff for Charlie Sheen, but he still did a great job in it. And like I said, a strong supporting cast. And it is a creepy idea. Like, what would happen if, all of a sudden the stuff landed in your front lawn, paratroopers, all of a sudden you're in the middle of World War III. What would you do? What would you do as a young teenager? What would you do in that situation? And the movie does make you fit into those shoes, but for some reason the remake didn't at all. The remake, I did, maybe it's because of the CGI, the way it was filmed, the cast, other than Chris Hemsworth, the rest of the cast I didn't care about, the way the action was stylized. I don't know how to put it, but yeah. Red Dawn is one of those movies that didn't need to be remade, and when you see the remake, you're like, that's why. But anyway, Red Dawn, great movie. You guys have probably already seen this, so I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know about. Sorry, that was empty DVD case I had over there. It fell. If you didn't hear that, it's a whoopee. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care, and we will see you in the next Patrick Swayze review. Later.